He didn't just build a pyramid. He built the idea of civilization.
Today, we're going to reach way, way back in time to uncover the story of a figure whose influence is so profound, it's honestly kind of shocking he isn't a household name. He was an architect, a physician, and a philosopher. And his story, well, it pretty much changes everything we think we know about the ancient world.
Just let that sink in for a second. Long before the names we always associate with the dawn of philosophy and law, there is someone else, a single person who seems to have mastered both. So you gotta ask, who was this guy?
His name was Imhotep, and his legacy didn't just get carved into stone monuments. It became the actual foundation of civilization itself. This is his story.
Okay, so to really get a handle on Imhotep, let's start with the legacy that has literally stood the test of time, the one that cemented his name in stone.
Now, this wasn't just another building. This was a total revolution in architecture. Before Imhotep, big structures were made of mud brick. He's the one who pioneered using stone on a massive scale, designing a whole complex that was meant to last for eternity. I mean, that alone would make him a genius.
But architect was just one of his many job titles. He was a true polymath, a term we use for people like Leonardo da Vinci, but Imhotep was the original, the prototype, and his work as an architect, that was just him getting started.
You see, his genius wasn't limited to stone. And this is where the story gets really mind-blowing, because we're about to pull back a layer of history that changes everything we were taught in school about where medicine comes from.
We all learn about Hippocrates, right? The father of medicine. But just look at those dates. Imhotep was practicing medicine and writing the world's first medical textbook, diagnosing diseases based on observation, not magic, a staggering 2,200 years before Hippocrates was even born. And that is the central question of this whole explainer, isn't it? If the evidence is so clear, why has history kinda forgotten its true source? We're gonna get to that, I promise. But first, we need to understand the sheer scope of his thinking. Because Imhotep wasn't just building with stone and healing bodies. He was designing the very blueprint for how a society should work. He was an architect of ideas.
The core of his philosophy was a concept called ma'at. And this wasn't some vague spiritual idea. It was a practical framework. Imhotep understood that for a civilization to last, it needed to be built on a solid foundation of balance, truth, and cosmic order.
He turned this big idea into a practical three-step blueprint. First, recognize that the universe has an order. Second, apply that order to society to create harmony. And third, make sure your government and your laws reflect truth and justice. It was a revolutionary guide for a stable, ethical civilization.
So, now we have the architect, the physician, and the philosopher, which brings us right back to our question. With a legacy this massive, where did he go? How did the original source get so hidden?
Well, it happened over millennia. First, the knowledge starts in Egypt with Imhotep. Centuries later, Greek thinkers travel there to study, and they adapt what they learn, they rebrand it. That becomes the foundation of Greek philosophy and medicine. Then, the Romans absorbed the Greek version. So when the West finally rediscovers these classical texts during the Renaissance, the original African source is almost totally forgotten. But here's the crucial thing. Imhotep's ideas didn't vanish. They were just absorbed. They became a hidden influence on Greek philosophy, a foundation for wisdom in the Bible, and a direct precursor to modern science. He's the invisible architect behind so much of what we call Western knowledge.
Which brings us to his most profound legacy. It's not about pyramids or papyrus scrolls. It's about an idea, the idea of immortality.
Yes, he built monuments of stone. They're magnificent, and they've stood for nearly 5,000 years. They are a true testament to his genius. But more importantly, he designed a legacy of knowledge. And ideas, well, they can't be eroded by time. They get passed on, adapted, and built upon, achieving a kind of immortality that no physical structure ever could.
And this is the ultimate takeaway. By creating a blueprint for medicine, for philosophy, and for a just society, he built something that would outlast even his pyramids. The idea that human knowledge and wisdom can live forever. The story of Imhotep reminds us that history is often way more complex and far more fascinating than the version we're usually told.
It leaves us with a final question. What other foundational stories and what other hidden geniuses are still out there just waiting to be rediscovered?